Okay, in the last video on Meilah 13a, we ended at the end of the Mishnaic portion. And we're about to, that's from 200 AD. We're about to go into the Gemara section, which is from about 500 AD. The last word in there was vetch. That's also called a tear. And it's in the pea family, apparently. And they're cultivated for various purposes. So, in the Gemara, the Mishnah teaches that an offspring born to a tithed animal before it was tithed may not suckle from the tithed mother. And the same applies to the offspring of a sacrificial animal. The Gemara asks, from where are these matters derived? So the example was given about the offspring of a tithed animal later cannot suckle, and the offspring of a sacrificial animal, the child, later cannot suckle. So the question is where these come from, and Rav Hadvoy Bar Ami said, it is derived through a verbal analogy of the expressions passing and passing from the case of a firstborn offering. So they're going to compare words. I'll look at that a little more. My Hebrew is not very good. And the scripture references are different from the King James Bible a little bit. I checked all of them already. So we will look at the accurate scripture references and look at the whole verse on this. So they're going to compare the words, and it's probably properly done in Hebrew, but for the passing and the passing. All right, with regard to animal tithe, the verse states, whatsoever passes under the rod. Leviticus 27:32. And with regard to the firstborn offering, it is stated, and you shall cause to pass all that opens the womb to the Lord. Exodus 13:12. Okay, so the word pass is in both of those verses. In the notes after this, I will probably look closer at those two. Just as in the case of the firstborn offering, one is liable for misusing all of it, as it is a male and does not have milk. So too with regard to the milk of a tithed animal. One is liable for misusing all of it, i.e., all of it is forbidden, including its milk, as it is part of the tithed animal. Therefore, the offspring may not suckle from the mother. The other halakha, that the milk of a sacrificial animal is prohibited, is also derived through a verbal analogy, specifically the terms its mother and its mother, from the case of a firstborn offering. With regard to sacrificial animals, the verse states, when a bullock or a sheep or a goat is born, it shall be 7 days under its mother. Leviticus 22:27. I'm not sure about the scripture references. We'll look at that in the notes. And in the case of the firstborn offering, it is stated, 7 days it shall be with its mother. Exodus 22:29. So, bullock, sheep, goat born, 7 days under its mother. And in the next verse, 7 days it shall be with its mother. Just as one is liable for misusing all of a firstborn offering, so too one is liable for misusing the milk of a sacrificial animal, i.e., the milk is forbidden, as it is part of the sacrificial animal. Consequently, its offspring may not suckle from the mother. So we saw a minute ago that the child of the animal is not allowed to eat the milk. So we're going to have two examples here of eating. The first, the Mishnah teaches that the laborers of temple produce may not eat from consecrated dried figs. I'll probably look at figs later. So they're probably thinking about the milk here that's eaten by the child, right? And likewise, a cow may not eat from consecrated veg. The Gemara does not ask about the source of the halakha of a laborer. As the verse clearly states in this regard, when you come into your neighbor's vineyard. Deuteronomy 23:25. I don't think that's right. Which does not include a vineyard belonging to the temple. They say that because it's the neighbor's vineyard, right? A person, and that's not the temple. Okay, so it's kind of clear here. But the Gemara does ask about the case of the cow. What is the reason for the ruling with regard to a cow? Rav Ahadvoy Bar Ami said, as the verse states, do not muzzle the ox during its treading. Deuteronomy 25, verse 4. The term its treading teaches that this prohibition applies to muzzling an ox when it is treading your non-sacred field, and not when it is treading a consecrated field. Since the consecrated produce is prohibited, one must muzzle the ox. So this its treading, that's not so clear to me. Maybe somebody listening, you could explain why this answers that so obviously. It's not obvious at all, I don't think. And that's why, by the way, in this section, the Gemara does not ask about. So they feel it's clear too. But the Gemara does ask about the case of the cow, because this is not as clear. Maybe we'll look at muzzling an ox later in the notes. The Gemara discusses a similar case. One who threshes his non-sacred kaililin, a type of legume, in a consecrated field is liable for misuse of consecrated items. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but in order for one to be liable for misuse, we require the consecrated item from which one derives benefit to be detached from the ground, whereas the field is the ground itself. Ravina said, conclude from it that the field's dust is beneficial for kaililin, and therefore he misuses the detached dust of the consecrated field when he threshes it. Okay, so you see here the requirement for misuse is that you derive benefit from it. And apparently they require detachment. So that seems like a principle. All right, I'm going to go back over some of the stuff in here in the notes. So that will be in part 3. Okay, but I did read through the whole of Meilah 13a here. Thank you.